What if the monsters from nightmares were real, and governments around the world were secretly trying to contain them? Deep beneath secure facilities, hidden from the public, the SCP Foundation documents entities so dangerous that simply knowing about them could be deadly. Some are creatures, some are diseases, and some are things that should never have existed at all. Tonight, on Mostly Monsters, we're counting down five of the creepiest SCP entities ever documented. These anomalies range from a plague that creates unstoppable zombies to a creature that can kill you simply by looking at it. Turn down the lights, and let's begin. SCP-008, the Zombie Plague. Imagine a disease so perfect at spreading that infection is almost guaranteed. SCP-008 is a mysterious biological agent stored in several high-security facilities around the world. Scientists describe it as a complex prion, a microscopic infectious protein, but what it does to the human body is far worse than any known illness. Exposure begins subtly. Within hours, victims develop flu-like symptoms and high fever. Soon after, severe neurological damage begins. Victims lose their memories, their reasoning, and eventually their sense of self. But the infection does not stop there. As the body deteriorates, something horrifying happens. Dead tissue begins to rot, yet the remaining cells grow stronger. Muscles gain abnormal endurance, blood thickens and slows. Even catastrophic injuries become less fatal. Eventually, the infected person falls into a coma, effectively dying. And then, they wake up. The victim returns as a mindless, corpse-like organism driven only by instinct. These infected creatures can stand, walk, crawl, and hunt. Their senses guide them toward the living, and once they reach a victim, they attempt to bite and spread the infection. What makes SCP-008 especially terrifying is its efficiency. It is 100% infectious and 100% lethal. The only reliable way to stop an infected victim is severe destruction of the brain. Even more disturbing, scientists believe SCP-008 did not originate on Earth, which raises a chilling question. If the plague wasn't created here, where did it come from? SCP-023, Black Shuck. At first glance, SCP-023 looks nothing more than a large black dog, but this creature carries a curse that no one can escape. Standing about 1.5 meters tall, SCP-023 resembles a massive, shaggy canine with glowing orange eyes. It has thick black fur, sharp teeth, and a silent, watchful presence. But the true danger of SCP-023 lies in its eyes. If a person makes eye contact with the creature, something terrible happens. Exactly 1 year later, either that person or someone in their immediate family will die. No one knows how the victim is chosen. It could be the observer themselves, or a parent, sibling, or child. Sometimes it appears random. Other times, the selection makes no sense at all. When victims are examined after death, the results are horrifying. Their bodies appear normal from the outside, but inside, their organs and tissues have been replaced with compacted ash, as if they had been burned alive from within. Even stranger, SCP-023 refuses to remain in ordinary rooms. If its containment cell does not resemble a crossroads, the creature will simply phase through solid walls until it finds one. The Foundation first discovered SCP-023 after a violent attack on a church during a service. Several people were killed immediately, and many more died exactly 1 year later after unknowingly meeting its gaze. To this day, the creature remains under strict containment, and the most important rule is simple: never look it in the eyes. SCP-203, the Tortured Iron Soul. Some SCPs are monsters, others are victims. SCP-203 is both. The entity appears to have once been a human male, but at some point in the past, something or someone transformed him into a nightmarish mechanical hybrid. His skeletal system has been completely removed and replaced with a moving framework made of cast iron. The metal structure extends throughout his body, forcing him to stand nearly 2.5 meters tall. Sharp metal barbs replace his fingers. Iron rods run through his spine. Hooks hold his face together where his jawbone once existed. Where a mouth should be, there is only a small mechanical speaker. Despite the modifications, SCP-203 is still conscious. It can understand English and communicate through the device embedded in its face, but it remembers almost nothing about its past, only pain. The entity runs on an internal power source that lasts roughly 72 hours. When the power drains, SCP-203 enters a brief period of forced sleep, something it claims is the only relief it ever experiences. Even more disturbing is SCP-203's defense mechanism. If threatened or harmed, it can emit a high-frequency sonic signal that severely damages the human nervous system. The sound causes intense neurological trauma, often incapacitating anyone nearby. Researchers still do not know who created SCP-203 or why. But one thing is certain, whatever happened to him was deliberate. SCP-1013, the Cockatrice. Legends of the Cockatrice go back centuries. Creatures said to turn victims to stone with a single glance. SCP-1013 appears to be the terrifying reality behind that myth. This creature resembles a strange reptile with the head of a rooster. Its body is small, barely 60 centimeters tall, but its tail stretches over a meter and is incredibly flexible. But its most dangerous weapon is its stare. When SCP-1013 locks eyes with a victim, the target experiences sudden agony as every major muscle locks in place. Within seconds, the victim becomes completely paralyzed. For 8 minutes, they cannot move. Then the creature strikes. SCP-1013 bites the immobilized victim, triggering a rapid calcification process. The skin begins hardening into a stone-like shell that spreads across the body. Within 15 minutes, a human can become almost entirely encased in calcified tissue. And that's when the creature begins feeding. SCP-1013 breaks through the hardened shell and consumes the still living tissue inside. But its horror doesn't stop there. The creature reproduces by consuming massive amounts of flesh, then forming cysts in its tail. These cysts eventually burst, releasing dozens of juvenile SCP-1013 creatures that grow rapidly and begin the cycle again. During one containment breach, over 1,000 of these creatures infested a facility. It took 8 weeks to destroy them all. SCP-1104, the Nose Crab. Sometimes the scariest monsters are the ones you never see coming. SCP-1104 is a parasitic organism whose life begins as microscopic larvae floating through the air. When inhaled, a larva attaches themselves inside the host's nasal cavity. Then they begin to grow. Over the course of several months, the parasite slowly expands, extending limbs through the skull while releasing chemicals that prevent the body from detecting it. Most hosts never realize they are infected. They may experience headaches, but nothing more. Eventually, the parasite reaches maturity. At that point, it begins manipulating the host's brain by pressing against the optic nerves. The victim starts experiencing visual disturbances whenever they face the wrong direction. Instinctively, the host begins walking towards the only direction where the vision clears. They unknowingly follow invisible chemical trails, leading him toward underground sources of hydrogen sulfide gas, such as sewers or volcanic tunnels. Once they reach the destination, the parasite forces the host unconscious. Then it escapes through the eye socket. After leaving, the parasite returns underground to continue its life cycle. The victim survives, but suffers permanent brain damage and loses nearly all initiative or personality. By the time anyone realizes what happened, the parasite is already gone. And those were 5 of the creepiest SCP entities ever documented. From unstoppable zombie plagues, to cursed creatures, to parasites that secretly control their victims. The SCP Foundation archives are filled with horrors far beyond imagination. The scariest part? If the Foundation really existed, these creatures would be hidden somewhere in the world right now. If you enjoyed this episode of Mostly Monsters, make sure to subscribe and let us know in the comments which SCP we should explore next. And remember, some monsters don't live in stories, they live in containment.